Everybody, BDO44 coming at you another video. All right, so I'm sure I've already said this somewhere in one of these videos, but I guess I can condense this point into one video since I'm listening to folks talking and I can retort in this way. Here's the thing: Kevin Durant or any other player for that matter, if you're trying to trade them, if you're the organization and you decide you want to trade them without them requesting a trade, then you can ask for what the price tag on them would normally be. I'm listening to Tim Legler and guys like that. They're saying, I want a 24-year-old kid who's going to get me 25 points a game and anchor my offense. I'm like, that's a reasonable ask if KD didn't ask out. If I say, I just want KD up out of here, I can go to team A, B, and C and say, look, KD's on the block. What are you offering? I want this, and this. Can you meet those criteria? If not, I'm going to go on and see who else is it. But in this situation, it is a bidding war. So, yeah, you can demand a lot based on what everybody else is willing to try to match them with one another. But if the entire field is thinking clearly, they're not going to give you, any of those teams are going to give you that key core piece because in essentially they have to acquire a player of that magnitude who's likely going to need that piece to be happy in that organization. So you're going to find that probably 28 out of the 30 different teams you're going to try to trade him to once he makes a trade request, because now it triggers the understanding he's unhappy. So if he's unhappy over there because he can't win more than likely 9 out of 10 times, or if the situation is bad, I can't make the situation great over here because I'm going to have to deplete myself of the key pieces that allow that to be the case. So even if you're willing to match the next team's offer or this, that, and the third, what you end up finding out is you get the player there and they're not happy to be there because you don't have enough to make it so that this makes sense for them. So while I think there are a lot of packages behind the scenes that are really comparable to what it is that I would take for KD in this situation, I think the Nets would much rather get him at a price that doesn't have the trade request attached to it. And that's just not happening. That's not happening. And you have the different snags and various things that have to do with Ben Simmons' specific contract and the landing spot that is the Nets. So it decreases what you can do. Now, the Nets in this weird spot because 9 out of 10 times you definitely just simply trade that Ben Simmons piece so that it opens up the opportunities for you to bring in, what you need in exchange for Kevin Durant without any trouble. But Ben is not easy to move. And because everybody knows they're in that situation, even if they shop Ben, it's going to cost them double to get rid of him because of it. Double on top of the double that it already cost because of the price tag that they paid for him, as to which was low to begin with because of his circumstances specifically. So you're looking at a piece in Ben Simmons that they literally cannot move even if they were to choose to, in my theory. Or they'd have to give him up for something that makes absolutely no sense. That's going to make them significantly worse in doing so. Plus, they like Ben Simmons and they want to build around him. He's young. He's going to be fantastic on both sides of the floor in different ways. And it's just going to be one of those situations where it's not going to be a situation where they want to give him up necessarily just to make this happen, especially if they're going to be depleting themselves of 2 fantastic all-stars. They don't want to deplete themselves of a third one just because the numbers don't necessarily match and conveniently for them. It's much easier to just find another deal and keep the player you want to keep in place. So that's also why this deal isn't done yet. If that little snag wasn't in the way, I'm pretty sure they probably would have did a Heat deal already or something like that. Bam would be a Heat. Tyler Hero would probably be a Heat or something like that, and you would hear about KD being there. But because the trade pieces can't necessarily work out that way, it makes it difficult. Then you look over at Phoenix's situation. Yeah, he had them on the list, but the Nets want Devin Booker naturally. Now, the Nets have to consider the fact that they want to be in a situation where they can move forward and win now, or at least retool quickly with the market they're in. So they can't afford to take back lesser pieces like Mikal Bridges and, maybe Cam Johnson and a bunch of picks and expect that to be enough. Their immediate team is going to be really, really, really bad, and that's something that they don't appear to want to have any parts of. So this is why the deal hasn't been done yet, in my opinion. And so I hear people like KP saying, oh, in regards to Kyrie, where they're like, I trade Kyrie to a place he don't even want to go. I'm like, brother, you ain't the first person to think of that. But here's the problem with that thinking. The other side has to agree to that. And what they know is, if you're sending him someplace he don't want to go, then guess where he lands? Somewhere he don't want to be, which makes him a bad piece for that organization upon arrival. Now he wants out of your situation. You got their headache instead of the great player that he's supposed to be for you. All you did is inherit the same problem they had. Now he's looking to get away from you, souring your situation, messing up what you got going on. And now what you've done is brought in a piece that's disruptive. And if you have chemistry issues already, which a lot of teams do, or you have young pieces in place who expect to take steps forward, and you're bringing in Kyrie Irving, you saw that went literally with Kyrie Irving with the Celtics. You can't send him to a place he don't want to be. Because if you do that, he lands in a place he don't want to be. And ain't nobody going for that. Now, if they happen to go for that, good for you. You got him to a place he didn't want to be. Like Philadelphia's traded Chris Webber to Sacramento. They pulled it off. Sacramento actually went for it, and they made it work. But 9 out of 10 times when a player goes to a place he don't want to be, the first thing he's going to do, especially in this era, and Chris Webber didn't have the LeBron James era to derive from at the time, so this is a different time. He's going to force his way out of there fast, too. You send Kyrie to someplace he don't want to be. Send that man to Utah right now. I promise you, he ain't going to put on a uniform for Utah at all. He ain't. He going to be like, look, get me up out of here. Utah, thank you for bringing me here, but Dwayne, ship me out immediately. I will not be playing for y'all. So you don't sign up for that if you're Danny Ainge and Dwayne Wade. You don't even sign up for that. You're not going to go after that player because you know he wants to be with the Lakers, and you know you're going to have to deal with the Lakers. You picking up that player, you just understand you're going to have to deal with the Lakers, or you're going to lose him for nothing. For whatever you gave up for him to acquire him, it's gone and he's gone. So, yeah, no one's signing up for that at 36.7, I believe it was. 36.9. I think it's almost 37 million. No one's signing up for that. No one's signing up for that. Now, here's a situation that's really interesting that I've been hearing floated around. If the Nets get frustrated, for some reason they can't make the deals they want to make, they could just outright, buy out his contract. That's the best case scenario for the Lakers, of course, to be completely honest with you. I ain't trading for nothing at all that I can get at a tenth of a fraction of the price at all. That's the problem that now I'm in the space as a GM, and I'm like, you trying to tell me I can get Kyrie for minimum, whatever the minimum would be, and he still got his money. His money's set. They got to take care of that. Why am I trading for him at all? Like, honestly, why am I trading for Kyrie at all? Let those idiots come to the conclusion that they need to buy him out, and then from there, we just pick him up outright. Makes our team 100 times better because now he's not representing that aspect of our cap, and we can bring everything we need to him. Maybe make trades and make our team a lot better. With the cap space that we have, we're much more flexible. So I think that's the best case scenario for the Lakers all in all. With that new information, I'm not really looking to trade at all unless, and this could be considered leverage if I'm the Lakers, unless it's a package deal to bring me KD and Kyrie. Yeah, it's risky. If you're the Lakers, putting that on the table, that's risky. But if you consider the fact that Kyrie ain't going to be happy nowhere else he goes, and you understand he's at $36 million, the chances that the Nets actually find a landing partner that isn't us, I think could be pretty slim for Kyrie Irving. Very slim, actually. So, yeah, that would be the stance I take. And if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, that's probably the stance the Lakers are taking. It's like, listen, we'll do a deal with you for KD and Kyrie. But a deal for Kyrie, we're going to hold out and see what happens with that. Because I think it makes all the sense in the world to not trade for a $36 million contract if that $36 million contract can actually be taken care of before we even do so. Which is actually on the table if the Nets can't find that trade. So it makes no sense to trade for Kai. No trade. No sense at all. Got to see how that plays out. Unless, again, we have an asset we don't want. That's the key to all of this. And I need not forget that also. We have a Russell Westbrook contract that we would love to get off our books right now. You see what I'm saying? So if the Nets would just come around to understanding that the best possible thing for them to do, after all of the stuff that they're going to do, and looking around trying to find a deal for KD, if nothing pops up, the best thing for them to do is to take back Anthony Davis, take back Russell Westbrook's contract, and give us Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and make the difference up with picks and whatever else would make to make sense. And to be completely honest with you, it shouldn't take much. With those two players straight up, coupled with the field, which I would imagine if they come to this conclusion, there wasn't nothing out there. And the Lakers shouldn't have to throw in no 27 or 29, none of that. It should be 2 for 2, good night. Because at the end of the day, if all of this came to what it came down to, it means you couldn't trade KD. And you couldn't trade Kyrie. That's what it came down to. So you can either eat that Kyrie contract and then trade me, and eat that on your own, or we can make that Kyrie contract not something you have to eat and instead turn it into Russell Westbrook's contract that would come off the books in a year. And you, of course, have what you need for the KD situation. Now, granted, you could say, no, I'm just going to hold Kyrie for a year and he'll come off the books here at 37. But, 47 is much more than 37. So that's an extra $10 million for your trouble. That's what I would sell it as. So that's how I look at that, man. That's how I look at that. I think they should want Russell Westbrook if Kyrie's coming out, because I would want that 47 coming off the books at the end of next year, regardless of what the situation's going to be. Especially since I have Ben Simmons as a piece who I'm not really sure. I have question marks about. So chances are, at the very least, I'm going to want to retool in a major way around him come at the end of this season. I'm going to want that, especially since I'm going to have a tough year more than likely without any picks to show for it. Trust you me, I'm a Laker fan. I just watched the Pelicans get Dyson Daniels for our issues. Every bad thing we did turned into a fantastic player for them. So you don't want to be in that situation if you're the Nets without having something to look forward to. So 47 mil will definitely be that in a free agency year that is going to be spectacular. Spectacular free agency year. And the Lakers need not forget that too as we consider what our options are. It will be a spectacular year next year. So, yeah, man, that's what it is. I think the Nets, they're going to do their due diligence. They got to be smart about it. If they can get 1 million picks, if Toronto's going to offer 1 million picks and Scotty Barnes, and they should probably take that. I'm not going to even hold you. If Scotty Barnes is available, maybe, some other pieces on top of picks, that's about as good a haul you're going to get for KD. But what KD is going to find when he gets up to Toronto, in my opinion, is it's not going to be enough. Pascal Siakam, KD, Boucher, Fred VanVleet, they're going to be an excellent contender. But are they going to be the elite team that wins the championship? I guess they got a shot at it. Not as good a shot as I think we'd have if he was here with Kai and Bron, but they got a great shot at it, I think. But you got to consider, all of us, all these teams are going to have to deal with the bigs. All of these teams are going to have to deal with Joel. And so that's something to consider no matter what. With the Lakers, they're going to have to find a way to guard him too. If we see these guys in the finals, we're going to be able to attack them in different ways. But that big man position, even if we do the amazing KD, Kyrie, LeBron, you're going to be throwing some younger, lesser guys at these incredible bigs. So we better be ready for that no matter what if we let go of Anthony Davis. That's the value of Anthony Davis and all of this. So, yeah, I think the Nets need to think about that. I think the Lakers need to think about that when people are considering what they're doing with Anthony Davis particularly. So, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'm sitting back. I'm looking at the situation. I'm loving it. I don't think anything's going to get done today as far as Kyrie and KD. I doubt it. And the reason why I say that is because I do think they're going to wait for as long as they can to find the best possible deal for KD. And I don't think the best possible deal is coming yet, because I think some things could shake loose that would make other deals actually better as time progresses. For example, what is Utah going to do? A lot of them are probably waiting for KD, but maybe it's in the Nets' best interest to wait for the field, kind of do a holding pattern thing. Because for example, if Utah trades Donovan Mitchell, do you know how much that shakes loose? Now KD can slip into wherever Donovan Mitchell's third team was, who added their player to get to that team, and maybe have rearranged some things to open up a roster spot that looks great to him that may not be available right now. That's just an example, you know what I mean? But these are the type of things that happen in the NBA, as trades are made, and it does open up things for everybody, potentially. So yeah, I think we might be in a holding pattern. We could see this thing stretch out for a week. We really could. And if my theory about both of these guys ultimately landing in LA is true, then I also think there's some licensing things that are probably taking place behind the scene with a bunch of lawyers trying to make everything make sense for all parties involved, which is major when you consider the companies that we're talking about. So that's that type of thing in my mind is not just something you do overnight or get taken care of in 48 hours. No, yeah, it's a lot of language that needs to be worked out so that guys can be seen together, be on the same team with one another. When they're of this echelon, I would imagine it gets a little weird. So yeah, that's one of those type of things. And really, as it pertains to KD, anywhere he goes, it's going to be the same thing. They got to prepare for his arrival as a brand. So that's real, man. Anyway, yeah, I still think KD should think about Portland. I can't shake Portland. I know he's not going there, but I do think that would be one hell of a place for him to land with Dame and Grant. I think that's a nice little secondary option for him if he doesn't get the options that he likes. I don't think he should shake that one off. So, yeah, that's what I got to say, man. That is my thoughts. BDF 44. Thank you all for watching. I'm out.